Hey guys, Martin here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to talk about the Heroes banner. It is going to be upcoming in the game very soon. This video is going up at 10 PM UK time. The banner comes out at 5 AM tomorrow morning, so that means if you are watching this as and when the video goes up, the banner is going to be out in 7 hours time. Now obviously this is the image of last year's banner. We don't have the page or even the in-game banner art yet for the new banner. Although we can imagine it will look something similar to this, because of course this banner only showed the 5 new units, and this year there are only 5 new units. So that is something that we are going to get into here as we talk about whether or not you should summon on the banner, because there are still a couple of unknowns going into this banner, but there are a few things that will be known and will always be the same when it comes to summoning on filler banners in general, or like the Heroes banner, banners situated at certain times of the year. And we're going to get into all of that in this video, so do go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. I should mention, I say this in my summon or skip videos all the time, right, is I try and make these advice videos geared more towards people who are free to play or who don't spend as much money on the game, maybe just a little bit here and there, because you need to be summoning smart, right? You need to have, you ideally want to be getting the best value that you can for the stones that you use. And obviously now, one of the big things with the sync now being in place is that even if you are a global player, because obviously this video applies to global and JP, the banner's out on both versions, as all new stuff will be going forward. With the game synced, the anniversary is at the end of January / beginning of February now for both versions. And it pretty much goes without saying that like every year, at least one of the anniversary units is just the best unit in the game. So the anniversary is something that you should be thinking about when it comes to whether you're going to summon, whether you're going to use stones, how many stones you can accumulate within a certain amount of time. And so when it comes to banners like this, even if one of the heroes units on the banner was going to be the best TUR in the game, you then have to think about what's going to happen in the future. Unfortunately, Heroes has this reputation, and I say that as if it's like, it's a valid reputation, right? Heroes has this reputation historically where the units come out, they can be fun. Even like last year with these units, you could dominate all of the content that was out in the game at the time when this Heroes team came out. And then when the new difficult content for the anniversary comes out, that's when the team really starts to struggle, right? So these guys came out in November last year, the anniversary came out in February, and then obviously for global July. And that's where, for me as a global player, we got to experience the content for the first time. And like, we could do some of the movie or the Dragon Ball Super Blue Zone stages with the Heroes team, but there were a couple, especially including the final 2, right, against Gogeta and Beast Gohan. There was a couple that we absolutely just could not beat with the Heroes team, with no items, of course, which is the goal of testing this team out against these difficult events. But that's obviously very disappointing if you're a JP player, because that event came out like 3 months after, not even 3 full months, 2 to 3 months after the units came out. So the Heroes units can be super fun and they're super unique and interesting design and everything. But if you're summoning based on, you know, how to have the strongest account so you can beat difficult content, so you can beat missions to get extra rewards and all that stuff, this team is not going to be like super meta relevant for particularly long. So that is definitely something that you have to bear in mind. Now, when it comes to like the benefits of summoning on this banner, there are the 5 new units, and then we don't actually know what the rest of the banner is going to be, because we get the 5 new units. If we look at last year's banner, 5 new units, and then the other 2 featured units were units that were getting awakenings that had come out previously but didn't awaken, and then they awakened last year, so they're featured on the banner. This year, there are no units that need awakenings, and we've only been shown 5 new units. So there are 2 possibilities. The banner either actually only has 5 units on it, or they just throw 2 other units on it to round it up to 7. And then realistically, that could be any 2 units. It probably, in terms of the players, what would be best if they are going to put 2 random units on there would be Limit Breaker for Geo and Super Saiyan 3 Rose, because these 2, at least on solid like 200% teams and stuff, can still be kind of usable now. But the funny thing is, I have a horrible feeling that it could be Vegeta and Broly, because if we'd gone by the normal Heroes format last year, Vegeta and Broly wouldn't have awakened. And it would have only been like Rose, Vegito, Fu, and then the 2 Awakenings. They'd have been the only TUR like Awaken units. And then this year we'd have got 5 new units. Vegeta and Broly would have been featured on the banner, and they would have awakened. However, they awakened them last year, and unfortunately they didn't really give them particularly good awakenings. I kind of wish they hadn't just awakened them. But it almost feels like if that is the case, they could have already like planned that like Vegeta and Broly were going to come back this year and potentially awaken, and then they just decided to awaken them last year, but they still like have that blueprint in place, so those 2 would be featured on the banner, which would be terrible for summoning because neither of them are particularly good. So the best case scenario for the players is that the banner is just the 5 new units featured and that's it. But yeah, I was going to say, talking about the good thing of summoning on the banner is every single multi-summon is guaranteed featured. So when you summon, you will get one of the featured heroes units. So if you're somebody who, regardless of what I said about saving and all that kind of stuff, if you're somebody who does want to have a few summons on the banner, because you do want to try and get 1 or 2 of the characters specifically, then obviously every multi you do get one of the featured characters, which is why, as I say, it is better for the players if this banner ends up just having 5 featured units, because if it has 2 of these older units, then obviously you could be getting them in your guaranteed featured spot as well. And then, of course, every multi you do, if you do get any extra SSRs in the multi, things like getting a God Goku animation on the Heroes banner is always awesome, because the only units in the banner are the Heroes units. So all the old Heroes units are in here, which means even if they're not featured, Vegito and Rose will be in the banner. However, the banner is leaning more towards, which is unlike any other banner in the game, more towards featured, or at least unlike LR and like Dokkan Fest banners. If you pull an extra SSR on a Dokkan Fest banner, it's usually a 50-50 chance that it's going to be featured or unfeatured. If you pull an SSR on this banner that isn't the 10th unit, it's actually a 70-30 split. It's more likely to be a featured unit. So if you get a God animation and you get 3 SSRs, chances are you're probably going to get 3 of the actual featured units, which can obviously be very, very good as well. So getting the units is definitely a lot easier on these banners because they're featured, but you have to remember at the end of the day, it's still RNG. Even if it is only 5 characters featured, it's still a 1 in 5 chance to get the one that you want, and it can take a while to get the very specific one. I try to rainbow all the Heroes units every year. Last year, the last unit I needed to still get copies of, I got the final copy of Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Vegito to rainbow him, and by that point I think I'd pulled about 8 extra copies of Rose. So this is a thing that can happen, right? You can pull one of the featured units quite a few times early on, and then you're trying to get one of the other specific ones, and you just keep getting that same one over and over again. Unfortunately, is a thing that can happen. And so that is why, again, to mention the actual featured unit list, if they throw 2 of these older characters on there, you could keep getting them as your featured unit in your multi, which is obviously not what you're going to want for the most part. So that is something to bear in mind. Now, the banner won't have discounts. It is literally just 50 stones. You get blue coins from this banner, which is kind of awkward because they're pretty much useless nowadays. And then, yeah, you get guaranteed featured. No discounts, no step-ups, no tickets. There's no purchasable tickets if you are a spending player. Obviously, there are sales, and the sales are usually okay. So if you are going to spend and you want to summon, then there are new sale packs to pick up. And we won't get any more until the next new thing is going to come out anyway. So, yeah, realistically, like, again, if you're free to play or you don't spend a lot of money on the game, probably a fairly easy skip, I would say, because like the Heroes banner, like, every single Heroes unit is going to be unfeatured in the banner, but you have a less likelihood of pulling them. And with the easy A's this year, like realistically, when it comes to unfeatured units, unless they are featured, you got Limit Breaker, Vegito and Rose, obviously would be good. And then for the other unfeatured units, you've got like Mechikabra, Pan with her easy A, maybe the Xeno Vegeta and Xeno Goku, like God Trunks kind of at a push. Like they're the only unfeatured units realistically that you're going to want to be getting, unless it is just for collection purposes. But of course, at that point, summoning on the banner, like trying to get a specific unfeatured unit is going to be an absolute nightmare, because not only are you needing to get a bonus SSR, because if you only get one, it's going to be the featured one at the end. So you need to get a bonus SSR, and then you have like a 1 in what, like 25 or 30-ish chance that it's going to be the one specific unfeatured one that you want. So very, very difficult to get the older heroes units on these banners, which is a little bit of a shame. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to summoning for the new units themselves, if you are someone who is still tempted, you have to remember that the actual units themselves are not exactly super crazy, right? We've got Universe Tree Goku. I know private server showcases are out already, but I don't watch those. I like to get the units and try them out and get my own first impression. But the general consensus has been that the units feel a little bit underwhelming, which is a real shame, because like if Goku came out and was just like hands down the best TUR in the game, then you know, you'd be very tempted to maybe throw a few summons and see if you can get a couple of copies of him. But whilst he does seem good, and potentially even a little bit underrated, as often happens before people get to use the new units a bunch themselves, he is probably not a unit that you really want to be going out of your way to summon for, especially, you know, this close to the anniversary and all the other stuff that is going to be going on. We've got the, those are his character details, which we don't really need to look at. We got Fu is an interesting unit. He could be pretty good. He's got a very interesting kit. He builds up damage reduction during the turn. Goku's the only 200% leader though, so we can't really make like a full Extreme Heroes team. He's on Demonic Power, but not on Terrifying Conquerors or Space Traveling Warriors, so he could be good on Slug's team if you're somebody that summoned for Slug. I imagine if you're someone who summoned for Slug, you're someone who does summon a bit more often than other players, so will potentially be interested in heroes, and this guy obviously going to be very good on that team. And same with the Demigra. Demigra actually seems like, unless it's Goku, because I need to test him out obviously myself, but he could be the best one out of the bunch. He seems really, really good, and he's on Slug's team as well. Eos is a support unit who seems pretty good. She does rely on dodge against some of the toughest enemies, but like as she dodges, she builds up defense. I think her defense can actually get relatively high, but she's not going to be surviving like big boss super attacks and stuff like that, right? And then of course, last but not least, there's the, or maybe he is least, right? We have the warrior in black, which is Bardock. I always think the design of him's kind of weird. Like, I guess you can kind of see the top of the scar on the cheek there, but like you can't see his face properly, so you can't properly see the scar, and he doesn't have the bandana, but it is Bardock. And his design is very weird. Like, he's relying on the enemy being on low HP in order for him to get high numbers and get damage reduction and stuff like that. So on the turns where he is going to look good, he has the potential to look quite good, but it's going to be very, very situational. So again, considering the fact that the subject is, should you summon on this banner or should you skip it? Like, unless you're running a full heroes team just for fun and you don't care about like meta relevant, like the team will age out potentially very soon. Like, if you're looking for where these guys are going to work on other teams, where they're going to potentially have that little bit of extra longevity, like this guy's not really particularly good. This guy has potential. Eos, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Fu has some potential and Goku does have some potential, but none of them are like, oh yeah, like even if the heroes team ages out, you should summon because this Goku is going to be fire on like Power Beyond Super Saiyan or Realm of Gods teams and stuff like that. Is they're not quite at that level of power. So realistically, this banner is, I would say, a skip for most players. Like I say, unless you're a whale or a collector or just a huge Heroes fan. Because the one thing I will say is, someone made the joke in the stream earlier, but it is kind of true, is like, someone was saying, imagine you summon for heroes and then you can't pull the anniversary units because you don't have enough stones. The anniversary units will always return. These heroes units may actually never return. This is the last heroes collab. They might announce at the end that they're going to go into the general pool, which would be kind of cool. But we know we're going to get future EZAs, but we're not going to get a future collaboration celebration, which means we're probably not going to get a banner outside of, I guess, the units that EZA, like we have in the game now with the God Trunks. There'll be an EZA banner, but it is one of those things where if you don't summon for these units the one time the banner comes around, you are never going to get them. But again, for most people, if you only care about being able to beat the events, like powering up your account and stuff like that, you're not necessarily going to be missing much by not summoning for these units. But as I say quite a lot, you know, the game, it's a game and games are meant to be played to have fun. So if you have some stones to spare and, you know, you're still conscious that you're going to save a decent amount for the anniversary, but you want to throw a few stones at the banner so that you can maybe get some of these units, try them out on some other teams. Maybe you only ever end up using them in some of the lower difficulty events, but you enjoy those teams and you have fun. At the end of the day, that's the name of the game, right? Actually having fun and enjoying playing the game. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I say, when it comes to actually giving advice to free-to-play or low-spending players, really want to get the maximum value for your stones, I do think you should probably skip heroes. But obviously for those of you who are the Heroes fans that want to try out these units on other teams and just kind of have a bit of fun messing around, I do think that these units are going to be fun to use. None of them seem straight up bad to me. Even Warrior in Black seems like he could be interesting in some certain situations. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Are you going to be summoning? Are you going to be skipping? I will be live for when the banner comes out, so hopefully you guys will join me and we can rainbow the units hopefully quickly and painlessly, and then I'm going to insta-link level them and start doing some showcases and trying them out in different events, trying out the units on the other team builds outside of Heroes and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully I will see you guys there. But let me know your thoughts and your plans, summon or skip, down below in the comments. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.